Hi everyone, welcome to my class today. This is still Maths with Victor. We want to continue our works on straight line geometry, and today we'll be talking about the gradient of a straight line. By definition, gradient of a straight line is the measure of the steepness of the line, also known as the slope of the line. That means that gradient of a line determines how high or how low the line will be. If you look clearly, we have a straight line graph here. We have a straight line graph here, and this is our straight line, and this is our straight line. Now, the gradient of this line will determine if the line will be high or if the line will be low. And the same thing with the gradient of this line. But there are two key points I want you to note whenever we talk about gradients of a straight line. The first key point is that the gradient of a line can either be positive or can be negative. So it can assume a positive value and it can assume a negative value. And when will gradient be positive and when will it be negative? The gradient of a straight line will be positive if the straight line moves upwards. And then the gradient of a straight line is negative if the straight line moves downwards, which means by looking at our diagram, this will give us a positive slope, a positive gradient, because the line moves upwards, while this will give us a negative slope because the line moved downwards. The second point I want you to note is that for every straight line, it has a constant gradient. So it doesn't matter the points or the coordinates where we solve or where we calculate the gradient. The value must be the same. So what then is the definition, mathematical definition of gradient? We say that gradient is the increase in y over the increase in x. So gradient is the change in y all over the change in x, how the line moves with respect to the y-axis and how the line moves with respect to the x-axis, the ratio. In other words, the rise over the run, that gives you the gradient. Change in y is the rise of the line, and y change in x is the run of the line. So the ratio of change in y over the ratio of the change in x gives us the gradient of a straight line. Like I said before, it doesn't matter which points you calculate, you are going to get the same gradient. For instance, if I take out these 2 points, I'm going to draw my right angle triangle. And then, of course, I trace the first point with the coordinate x1 to the x-axis. I trace this coordinate x2 to the x-axis. I trace that of the first point, y1 to the y-axis, and then the second point, y2 to the y-axis. So I find the change or the increase here, and I find the increase here, and I find the ratio. That gives me the slope of the line. And then if I do it for 2 other different points across this straight line, I'm going to have a constant gradient because, like I said before, the gradient of a straight line must be a constant. So this is the mathematical formula for calculation of gradient of a straight line. Whenever you have your straight line graph, pick any 2 points across the straight line, trace the rise, and trace the run. The ratio will give you the gradient. We can also make use of this formula when 2 coordinates are given. When we have 2 coordinates, we can apply this formula and find the gradient of the line. The next lesson, we're going to solve 1 or 2 problems. Bye.